and then we'll get into our introductions and all the regular stuff. Here we go. It looks like it's saying prepare to live stream, setting up your meeting for YouTube Live. All the connections are being made in the background. It's saying done, redirecting to YouTube. I'm getting a live stream message on Zoom. So I'm going to say it's happening. All right. It looks like it is. I'm seeing my live stream in another window. All right, David, before we give you some feedback on your profile, could you please remind us what is your targeted job title and your targeted geographic area?
I'm going right now with creative director and DFW, Dallas Fort Worth.
Okay, creative director in Dallas Fort Worth. All right. So are you looking for a full-time job? Are you doing freelance work? Are you thinking about the side hustle? What's your path right now?
I'm seeking a full-time job, but I am freelancing right now as well. But
Okay.
of course, it's spotty.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I am, after COVID, furloughed most of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been a struggle to try to get back.
Okay.
But all that said is, as a freelancer, I'm not using one of my biggest strengths, and that is getting to talk to a lot more people.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you'll do some side jobs, but really the goal is to work full-time for a company, is what I heard you say. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So part of the reason I asked that question, David, is at the top of your profile in this section LinkedIn refers to as your top header card, where we see your background header image, we see your headshot photo, your name, your headline field. There's also these two items at the right-hand side. The top is your current employer, and the second one is the current or the most recent educational institution that you have attended or completed a degree from. And next to it says Design Balls Creative Services. I'm imagining this is your freelance business. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And right now it's not linked to a company page because there's no logo sitting next to it. And this is like for you, I'm gonna have to say, like, those people in the creative world we're gonna be treated differently because of the nature of the work that we do. So you say you're a creative director, and I'm just being blunt and direct with you on this, yet you don't have a logo next to your company name.
Right,
And
right.
and the reason is, and I know this, the reason is you haven't created a company page for your business on LinkedIn, right?
I had one before, but then I let it go. And so it's the idea is that I would put it back in. So that
Okay,
is.
so if I were you, David, even though this is just a temporary thing, I
Yes.
would go in and create a company page for your business. And I'm just going to do a quick search to make sure that you don't already have one anywhere in here. I put in your company name in the search bar, and I'm going to click on companies.
Yes.
I don't see it in here. So that
Right.
means you don't have it. So the process to set it up, David, and I'll remind you, you can watch the playback to come back to this later.
Okay, good.
In the top menu bar where it says home, my network, jobs, messaging, et cetera, you're going to click on the work. It looks like a waffle. So I'm going to call it the work waffle. You're going to click on that little drop down. And then underneath at the bottom of the options, you're going to see a link that says create a company page. Okay.
Where
So
did you
again,
see
we were at
that?
the work icon at the top.
Yeah.
And you're going to scroll all the way
Oh,
down to the bottom, and it'll say create a company page.
got it.
And then you're going to follow step by step. You're going to click on the company. You're going to put your company name in there. You don't have to put a website if you don't have a website. You can put your
Right.
own personal LinkedIn URL if you want in there, because it can redirect it back to your profile. Fill out, organization size, and it's fine to put 0 to 1. It's just you. It's just your
Right.
freelance business logo. This is the reason we're really setting it up for you, so that
Yes.
you can upload your company logo. Again, not for the purpose of really getting more and more freelance project, but just to have something in there so people don't come to the wrong conclusion, which is this guy's a creative director. Why doesn't he have a logo for his own business? Why wouldn't he know
Right.
to
Right.
do that? And we know why, because you're looking for a job. You're not looking to stay self-employed, but
Right.
we don't want people to associate somebody in the creative field with not having the ability to have a logo on the top portion of your profile. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm glad I got that review because that was one of the questions that I had.
Yeah.
And so you just answered it ahead of time. So that's great.
Wonderful. I want to see if our all-stars, who are my fellow career strategists, coaches, LinkedIn experts, if any of them would like to offer any additional tips to David on his profile today. I'm going to go to the order in which I see you. So I see Mindy and I see Kenneth to start, and then I think it's Gary is underneath that. So Mindy, do you have anything you'd like to add for David? Mindy, you're muted, I think.
I am unmuted now. Thank you, Brenda. So David, I'm just curious, you have that 125th Boston Marathon picture behind your head, which is fabulous. I'm assuming you are a marathoner. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, that's part of the identity. And the reason is that I was discovering that as another creative director in a sea of creative directors, it was a way to stand out, to kind of show resiliency, persistence, commitment, devotion, but also to battle ageism. I'd rather talk about
what was the last one you said?
ageism. I'd rather talk about my 52nd marathon coming up than, my age.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, just checking because some people put things there and it sounds like you have a good rationale for having that. So kudos to you for running. I wish I could do something like that.
It's a commitment. I've already run 8 miles this morning, so
okay.
Get that in before work.
Oh, just 8 miles. Is that it, David?
Well, it was
very impressive.
I had
did he say 8 miles?
Impressive.
I only had about an hour, so.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Congratulations, sir. That's awesome. All right. Thank you, Mindy. I'm going to keep this moving along here. Kenneth Lang, do you have any advice that you'd like to give to David on his profile or questions for him?
Just a basic comment. As a content creator, I don't see you creating a lot of content. And I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way. I mean, liking is one thing, but when I looked at your activity, I think the most recent thing you did was maybe a month or so ago. So I think you want to think a little bit about coming up with a strategy as to what you're going to post. It doesn't have to be every day. I think, Brenda, we will talk about just have a strategy because that kind of goes like, I'm going to be looking at you as a content creator, then I'm going to look at your content and I'm going to see a disconnect. Just my 2 cents.
Related to that, David, do you have any work samples that you could showcase as a post?
That's also another good thing to do. It's what I have been up to is to talk about keeping this theme of the distance runner as part of this instilling in others that they have a potential in themselves, which is as great as any marathon runner. That's kind of the thing about the encouragement part there. Also, I lost my dad recently. And there's been a little bit of a lull in what I was doing prior to that. So a little bit of a, kind of a family thing and kind of going in that direction. But yeah, it's been a while, but it's coming back. And so, a part of that is in the training. When you can go to that, then you have a place for your thoughts.
I mean, I love Mindy's comment about having inspirational stories, life is a marathon or, right. Go the distance, that sort of thing, because that ties into the picture in your the background picture. It just my 2 cents, and I'm really sorry to hear about the loss of your dad. It's never easy.
I appreciate that, and everyone's been very, very kind about that. But since we're kind of new to each other, so that's not necessarily common knowledge. I don't like to put family stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you, Kenneth, for that feedback. And yes, David, I'm very sorry to hear about your loss. Losing a parent's a very difficult thing, and it's life-changing. And it's can be very it takes a while it doesn't ever feel normal. But appreciate where you come from.
He would be the person that says, "Okay, it's move on."
Yeah,
it's really strange that he's part of the inspiration even now. Is that he would be just saying, "You have a life to live." And get on it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I'm going to keep us moving here. Let's see who else. Gary, I'm going to go in this order. Gary, Jude, and Sue, and then we will move on. So we're doing a profile review for David Ball on our session here today. Gary, do you have any suggestions or questions for David based on his profile?
Not really. I agreed with Ken that I'm looking for content. That was my very first thing. I do like the picture. I do see ageism every day. So I'm glad you're aware of it. I'm glad you're taking care of it. And I drove 3 miles to Starbucks this morning. I just wanted to share that.
You drove 3 miles. You didn't run 8 miles. Right. That's awesome. All right. Thank you, Gary. Okay, let's see. Who did I say was next? Jude and then Sue, I think, right? So Jude, you're up. Do you have any questions or comments for David based on his profile?
Yeah, I do. So when I looked at, David, when I looked at your about section, it said that you were a storyteller and motivational speaker, in addition to being a creative director. So that kind of makes me wonder where you really want to go. And when I'm hearing you talking today, I'm also hearing that maybe, you know, motivational speaking is maybe more where your heart lies. And so I'm just wondering if you could maybe really focus your about section, those first 4 lines on being a creative director and hitting the pain point of your potential employer or your client. The other thing too is in your experience, you have a lot of great stuff. I would recommend that you separate those bullets by adding a line space. That just makes it easier for people to read. And this is where you could also upload images of the work that you've done. And, you know, images really pull our eyes. So that's something that you could do with all of your work experience, just to make it easier for the person to read, and add in some graphic images to, you know, get people even more interested in reading about you.
Are you saying that in the about section? Or are you saying in a special section?
In your experience section, you have your first job.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so Brenda's going to show us. See how Brenda's got those images there?
I do now.
Yeah. And see how Brenda's also given different sections some breathing room, some white space. That makes it easier for a person to read what you've done. And so you can absolutely add media to your experience sections. And as I said, just make it a bit more interesting and eye-catching.
So you add the media in between.
So what you do, David, is you go into your experience section, you're going to click on the pencil icon, and pencil means you're going to edit something.
Right.
So we're going to edit what we already have in your experience section. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And this is like literally why I have a job and why Kenneth has a job, because LinkedIn is not very intuitive and they don't tell you how to do these things. So you scroll down to the section called media, and it's tucked underneath here. There's a little plus sign. It says add media. And if you click on that, then it says you can either add a link or you can upload media. So you can upload a PNG, a JPEG, PDF file. I don't know if you can do like Word docs and stuff too, Kenneth, but those are the ones I know. And then add a link. Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
Yeah. And then when you add media, you can also put a description in there, and that would be the headline and then the description of whatever that piece of media is.
So it's a little bit like a little bit more visual.
Yep. It's kind of like creating a little, like to Jude's point, you know, she was saying like underneath each of these, I would love to see some of the artwork that you did for JCPenney or some of the catalog designs or whatever it is that you did there, you know, like a little something that can kind of make it relatable to the work that you did. I think that's a great catch, Jude. Wasn't it cool? Did you guys notice how Jude was like telling, and she didn't say, Brenda, can you open the screen? And I did. And it was like, we were like in sync, Jude. We were like, you were narrating, I was navigating. But hopefully that demonstration helps you, David, on there. I'm going to keep us moving along because I want to get into our other call here, or other topics for our call, I should say. Who is after Jude? We had one more person, Sue Griffey. How could I forget Sue?
Thank you. I put a lot in the chat, emphasize exactly a lot of what everybody said. Can you go down to the featured section, Brenda? David, you've got to take this seriously. And this is the place that to me looks so inspirational and storytelling rather than trying to link to some key things for content creation. So think about what would show you as a content director. I love that Jude pointed out that your heart seems to be one place and what you're looking for might be something else. But I think you have to decide at this point, how are you going to, if you want to be a full-time content director, sell yourself as that and I say it all the time, don't make me do your work for you. Put stuff there and featured where people can see what you've done. Thanks.
Okay, so that was my question was, these are articles that I've written that has to do with content, especially I knew that they'd be eye-catching because people want to know, oh, you were in the Boston Marathon bombing. You know about the earthquake and tsunami in Japan. So there's links to those things. And so that's why I put those there. Is that a bad place to put them, or should they be more posts or something?
No, but I think
I don't know your world very well. So I'm asking myself, what would I want a content director to do? I want to see what products companies would be hiring you to do. And if they're hiring you to do these, that's great. And I'm off the mark. I tell people all the time, I work with a global audience. So I am learning more the US. But when I look at them, I'm not sure that companies would be hiring you to write this more inspirational kind of story rather than promoting their content. Others will know better, including Brenda, about whether I'm wrong. I just felt like there was too much of the same in the featured section that got me to storytelling rather than you said you want to be a content director. So take that perspective with a grain of salt.
Okay, yeah, creative director, but it is, I've been finding that content is key to showing that ability to make good creative work.
So could I add on to that, and I'll see if the others want, I mean, All-Stars as well. So you've got in your featured section, just to Sue's point, it's a very visual section and it's a place to help to tell your brand story and to appeal to your ideal target audience. And I hear what you're saying, David, these are interesting stories people want to see, but you've got 2 pictures out of the marathon, of the marathon in there, for example. So could you have a showcase a piece of artwork or a product design or something that you've done instead of one of those 2? Or,
Okay.
Back to Sue's point, maybe what you're looking for in your ideal dream job would be a creative director, a digital storyteller within the racing community. And if you say, yeah, that's what I really want to do, then keep doubling down on all of that. But what we're saying is, what I heard you say was that might be an interesting conversation starter. For some people, it might, but think about who's your ideal target audience. It's a hiring manager, it's an HR, it's a recruiter, it's people that are kind of scanning and looking at your profile, and they're trying to see demonstration that you can do the work. So if they're not runners and they see that, they go, okay, he participated in a race, but how does it tell me what his skills are as a creative director? So it's just, and there's not a right or wrong. We're just trying to give you you can get so tunnel vision into your own perspective. Like, let's just think about people outside of that realm of, what are they looking for when they're looking at your profile? Does that help? Does that make sense, David?
It does. I was thinking in terms of a theme. And so I was kind of being thematic about that. But now I see what you're saying is more variance might be good. It was a little bit more of a leaving a message that I want to tell this. I can tell stories. I can tell a story about your company or your entity, your nonprofit.
Yeah.
Hey, David, Brenda, could I share something?
Yeah, Megan, if you don't mind, Jude had raised her hand. Let me have Jude go first, Megan, and then I'll have you go next.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay, Jude, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
David, I really do like the running theme, and I think that would be a great theme for you to use in creating content. How it demonstrates resilience, all those things that you talked about earlier. So, as a content, like for instance, as a content director, I've really found that running helps me. It helps to clear my mind, develop new ideas. So the running thing is really good, and you can use that to really create some great content, letting people know how running has helped you create and be a great creative director.
And you put that in my about section, or are you saying state it out loud someplace?
No,
or?
I'm saying, when you're doing in the featured section or in your activity, use your running to talk about how that's helped you in your work as a creative director.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm writing that down too.
All right. Megan, you're up. What
Thank
advice do
you.
you have?
Okay,
Nice to see you
so
again.
here's something that, yeah, good to see you too. Hold on one second. Sorry, I'm trying to get it. Okay, so here's my observation from listening to everybody, David. Here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a whole bunch of explanation from you and not a lot of clear messaging. So think about it this way. If you have to explain yourself every time somebody asks you a question, then for some reason, the message might not be as crystal clear as you'd like it to be. So one of the things I love about your banner is the fact that it does have the Boston Marathon, but maybe that could be, to Brenda's point earlier about kind of putting that as a saved section or some other option, or incorporate it in a banner, but put a quote instead there that very clearly links running, creative direction, tenacity, persistence, perseverance, whatever you want that word to be, so that when I read it, it's like a billboard on, and Brenda has used this analogy before, your header behind your head is like a billboard. If I am driving by on a highway, all I think immediately is registration. Oh, I've got to, because we have friends who run the Boston Marathon for glioblastoma brain research. So, but what I'm saying is if you just tweaked it and incorporated that image, but also kind of faded it in the background and then overlaid a quote on like the right side or something, or made it a caption or something where it's much more crystal clear. And as I'm looking at, there is nothing in your header, like your descriptor, your headline, that indicates that you're persevering as a marathon runner. Like if you look at my headline, it clear, like Brenda's and Ken's and everything clearly state, this is what I do. And this is the link. Like I say, powered by community, coffee, and kindness. And then there's a link to schedule virtual coffee with me. So making that in your headline, just make it so clear for people that they don't have to think about that analogy. And then expand, like everybody has said, in your content, in your about section, in your posts and all of that. Does that help kind of clarify?
I think you were saying, instead of like where creative director, digital storyteller is, all that, you're saying to put maybe a phrase in that's about,
take out diverse industries, innovation, growth, and transformation, and put something about the link between it and the header image behind you. I think you can shift that up to do something with a quote that is very clearly linked. Like if there's a quote on my banner. Brenda, can you pull me up real quick, please?
I can.
Thank you, ma'am. Or if you pull Chris up, it's the same idea, right? We have a quote on our banner, but it clearly links my mission and value. So look, so I have the powered by, but then if you want to know my value in that link, everything I talk about is engagement and appreciation focus. That's the quote I have on my banner.
I see it down there. And then I see up at the top about,
yep,
they're supposed to tie in, right? The flowers and the blooming.
Yep, exactly. So make it more crystal clear for people, because you're doing a beautiful job articulating yourself. But if I'm just passing over your profile, I might not have time for that explanation. But if you make it crystal clear and something I'm intrigued by, I would definitely want to keep clicking. So.
Okay, I appreciate that. There's the disconnect. I see what you're saying.
All right, we're going to give one more person and then we're going to move on here. Kenneth Lang, I saw you raise your hand. Kenneth, what did you want to add?
Yeah, just an observation, because I was on a call. If you can create like a theme board or something with different titles, different topics, and start listing things on the weekend, so you don't have to develop content all the time. You can have it already. That might be helpful. Like if you listen to what we're all saying here, put it in a spreadsheet, put it somewhere else, and it will remind you that you have these things and you can have content, that way.
A theme board?
A theme board. Basically, think about a spreadsheet. You have different topics, like personal topics,
right,
technical topics. Under there, different ideas. Like you could do, like someone mentioned, how do you create a company page? You can talk about some strategy. I think Brenda probably knows a little more about this area than I do, because I just joined a Marcom group. but you basically sit down, you brainstorm on the weekend, and you sit down and have different topic ideas. You see a post on LinkedIn, gives you an idea for something to write about,
Well,
from
that
your own
happens all the
experience.
time.
What?
That happens all the time.
So that's why just put it down one day and you have it there as a reminder. So you just have something there as an idea, and you just don't have to, think, oh my God, what am I going to do today? I think that's part of a good strategy. Take everything we're saying here today and just kind of put it together on paper or on a spreadsheet or something.
All right, David. Was this okay, David? Because I know it's like, we gave you a lot, and we
Yeah.
gave you some, I like to say we gave you some tough love here today, and we learned a lot about you, but
Right.
this is all done in the spirit of helping you to get a job. That's
Absolutely.
where we're all coming from. So I hope it all came across that way to you, David. Are you okay with the feedback you're hearing here today?
I am. I'll probably have to listen to the YouTube rebroadcast as well and go. It's a little bit of a fire hose, but I've learned that I'm listening intently. That doesn't, I have to make my own decisions about how they'll be, but
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'll definitely dissect them and understand that you can't ever get a better thing than the first impression. And so when people that are getting impression here, I've been looking at this for a long time. So to have the impression from others that it can be useful because it's something outside your gaze. So that could be very helpful. And so I was willing to stick my neck out there. So you have to be able to take your medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, David. And by the way, I'm going to ask Paige, who is my intern. Paige, could you please grab the YouTube link for the video and put it inside chat? That way, everybody who's on the call will be able to access that. If you want to bookmark it, or when you download chat, you can pull it back up again later. And also, Paige, could you pull the YouTube playlist for all of the Friday VIP calls? And I recommend, it's almost like listening to a podcast, just listen to it on loop. Sometimes if you've missed a couple calls, you can always pick up additional tips in the background and just kind of have it running in the background. By the way, subscribe to my YouTube channel because it's awesome while you're there. And if you click that notify button, you'll get notifications on videos that when I post new videos out on there. All right. We are going to now get into our call. We're like halfway through our call, and we're actually going to do what we usually do at the very beginning, which is introduce yourself. If you have not yet dropped an introduction, I want you to go into chat right now, and I'm going to just put in my introduction. I have like a template that I kind of put in here to help you with this. So you don't need to say, hi, this is Brenda Meller, because Zoom already says your name. Okay. But I do want you to say your targeted job title. Tell us 1 or 2 job titles that you're looking for. I want you to tell us your targeted geographic area. That means, where are you located in the world? Are you in Paris, France, or are you in Detroit, Michigan? Like, tell us what that targeted geographic area is. And then please put your LinkedIn URL with a full web address, including the HTTPS. And if you happen to put it without the HTTPS, it's not going to be clickable. I'm just showing you an example of that right now. If you put it with the HTTPS, people that are inside the Zoom right now, they can click on it and go to your profile. And by the way, I encourage all of you to connect with each other. So you can do a little bit of multitasking during the call here today. Click on those links, go to their profile. And when you invite them to connect, mention that you are both on today's VIP Job Seeker Office Hours call today. Make an immediate connection with those individuals. All right. So while I'm seeing your introductions coming into chat, I want to ask each of my all-stars to introduce themselves. So we're going to go in this order: Kenneth, Gary, Sue, Mindy, and Jude. We're going to go in that order. So Kenneth, and then you'll pass it to Gary, and we'll just keep going through there. Go ahead, Kenneth.
Sure. Morning, everyone. Kenneth Lang here from Wayne, New Jersey, outside of New York City, and I am an introvert. When I first was on this platform, I was scared to death of doing things. I was afraid of how it's going to come across. And my thing is, jump in the water's fine. There's no harm in posting. You put yourself out there. You're amongst family and friends here, LinkedIn family and friends. And Brenda, I have to thank you so much for welcoming me into your community. Brenda and I we didn't know each other in the beginning. We were just 2 people out there, and I've met so many great people through you and through everyone else here. So happy to connect. Reach out to me. Just let me know how I can help. That's what this is all about. So thank you very much, Brenda. And Gary, I can't believe you're next.
Thank you, Kenneth. Gary Heitman. I've never been called an introvert. I have fun every single day. And in the last probably month, 3, maybe 4 people out of this group have reached out to me from all over the world and said, do you know anybody here? And of course, I know everybody everywhere. If not, I will find somebody in that company and I will connect and I will help any way I can. I'm here only to help job seekers find a job. That's the number one thing. I get joy and happiness when I hear, as does Brenda, I found a job or I got exciting news. To me, that's everything. And I'm very, very happy to help anybody any way I can, from resume reviews to mock interviews. But I got a heck of a network. Please be happy to use it. Thank you. I forgot who was next on the list.
Hi, I'm Sue
Hi, Sue.
Griffey. Thank you. Thanks, Gary. No, I'm known as Sue Mentors in the virtual world. I have a global mentoring practice. I work with professionals at all levels primarily during their transitions, usually job seeking, but also promotions and fellowships. And I'm the one with the pom-poms in the box. I'm in the mentor with pom-poms, never was a cheerleader, so I decided I'd become one in now my fourth active life. Thanks for letting me be here, Brenda. It's been great to be part of the all-star team, and we all learn from each other and learn from you about the challenges you're facing. And your challenges also help make us better at working with our practices. So thanks. And next, is it Jude?
Is it
I
Mindy?
don't think so. I think it was Mindy.
Okay, I'll take the pom-pom as a baton. Thanks. So hi, everyone. I know lots of you. I am so thrilled to be part of this group. I help people who are in job search every day. I love to connect people to others. The relationships that I have formed on just through LinkedIn since before COVID started have just been remarkable. And I meet from people from all over the world, and I love to connect people to each other. So I consider myself a people connector. So definitely use me if you would like to. I also host a group of job seekers who are called the Accelerators. I host a monthly program with them event, and I am thrilled to host that. This week, we had a recruiter in who was talking about the perspective of the recruiter for the job seekers. And I think that's a really important perspective to hear. And I want to tell you one nugget that we learned this week, which I have used in the past, and it might be very good, very in keeping with what we were talking to David about, which is a confused mind does not buy. A confused mind says no. And so we want to simplify wherever possible. We want to make sure that your message is super clear. I can help you do that, however you would like me to help. Our next call is November 2nd. I dropped the link in the chat already. We have an organizer who's focused on job search. She's going to help us to organize our job search so we can nail our next opportunity. That's on November 2nd. You're welcome to join. As I said, the link is in the chat, or you can shoot me a DM and I'm happy to connect you. Thanks for everything, Brenda. Appreciate your having the time to do this for us. I think Jude is next.
It's Jude here. Thank you, Mindy, for passing the baton. I help people with their job search. My superpower, because I'm a nerd and I love writing resumes, is writing resumes and cover letters that will get you the interview. I also help with job search strategy, networking strategies, interview skills, salary negotiation, or career transition. I post regularly on LinkedIn, so you can follow me there. And I missed the last 2 weeks here and really was excited to get back here today because I love these sessions. We really want to help everyone who's job seeking. And Brenda, thanks so much for letting me be a part of this. That's it for me.
All right. Did we get everyone? I feel like sometimes I keep going. I'm like, there's like 3 more people to get. All right. So first of all, thank you all, the All-Stars, for being on. I love that I have a name for you now. Like I can call you something, not just my career experts, the All-Stars. Thank you to the All-Stars for being on and donating your time so graciously every week, week after week after week. And I love the fact that you feel like this is a part of your schedule. Christopher Johnson emailed me early in the week. He's like, I can't make it on Friday. I'm like, it's a volunteer thing, guy. You know, like come if you come, and you can't, you can't. But I appreciate when people reach out and they're like, I can't come, because they feel like, I think the same way I do. I love this. Like I look forward, this is my call every week. This is the one I look forward to. And on that note, I want to welcome all of you who are job seekers. If you are in career transition, you are unemployed, in between successes, underemployed, you might even be working, but looking. Wherever you are in your life, you know, sometimes it's like it's a roller coaster of emotions. You might be feeling great one day because you're relieved, you're out of that bad job with the bad boss. And then the next day you're feeling at your lowest of lows because you're looking at your bank account and the unemployment checks aren't really covering your expenses. And you're thinking about the duration, how long you've been off. And then the next day you're up again because you got an interview. And then the next day you're down because they didn't call you back, you know, and it's a roller coaster of emotions. But you also might feel like you're kind of floating, like nobody really knows what's going on with my life. I used to be a part of a team at work. And if I didn't show up on Monday, people would be like, you know, Nancy, what happened? Why aren't you at work? And if nobody sees, you know, you don't have that accountability anymore. So I think like part of the reason I love having these calls is every week we have a touch point. We kind of come back in together and we're like, how's everyone doing? And I want you to look around both the videos up on screen right now, as well as just kind of look through the participant list. If there's people that you've enjoyed seeing in this group before that you don't see in here today, like message them today on LinkedIn. Or if you know them very well, like text them. Hey, I noticed you weren't on the VIP call today. Is everything going okay? You know, checking in. Like I want everyone to feel like they noticed, like they noticed I was here or wasn't here today. On that note, I want to say welcome and good morning to all of you who I can read your names. Welcome and good morning to Gary, Jude, Kenneth, Mindy, Sue, Jeffrey, Amy, Angie, Becky, Brad, Camille, Christina, Cindy, David, Dean, Esmeralda, Yvonne, Janelle, Jeff, Jillian, Joan, Joey, Kristen, Laura, Lisa L, and Lisa V, and Lisa P. We've got 3 Lisas in the house today, y'all. Megan, Michelle, Nancy S, and Nancy A. We've got Club Nancy here again to do. Paige, Patty, Scott, Simone, Sonia, Sue, Vic, and Wendy. Part of the reason I say your names is I want you to know I know you were on here, and it gives me a chance as the host to kind of see who is on the call today. I don't ever want you to feel like you're alone in this because it's a very isolating time. It's emotionally devastating going through a career loss. And I want you to know, like, this is a group you can come to every Friday. And by the way, connect with each other, make accountability groups with each other. You know, I don't want you to feel like you're alone. So you can find groups to work with. Yuri, you're so kindly raising your visual hand right now. Did you have something you want to add, sir?
Yeah, just in looking at everybody, just a reminder, since Christopher's not here, just do the Zoom salute. Just for those of you that don't quite realize, you know, put your hand up on the top of your head, and it should go to the very top of the screen. And then I see your face.
Is Kenneth too close then? Because he can't do the Zoom salute. Is that what we're trying to say? Or
well, some are way, way down, and I can't even see the rest of your face.
Okay.
And this is very important because as you're sitting in Zoom interviews today, I want to make sure that you're put in the most positive light you can possibly be. Like Nancy's background kind of stands out. That's an important thing. So as you're doing it, remember, just Christopher got me going on that. Every time I'm in a Zoom, I do this anyway. And I tell everybody, I want to see people. And that's why we're in the Zoom to start with. But certainly you job seekers, right now, interviews are most important over Zoom. So I want to put you in the best light. So thanks, Brenda.
Speaking of the best light, I want you, those of you who are on camera right now on Zoom, we're going to do this quick little Zoom training exercise. First thing is, when you are in an interview, as much as possible, when you're answering questions, look at the camera. Right now, I'm tapping my camera so you can see I'm looking at you when I look at the camera. as human beings, we want to look at faces. So you may feel more comfortable looking down like I'm doing right now. I'm making eye contact with Mindy and Sue and Joey and Becky, but do that when they're asking you the question so you can see if they're gesturing or whatever. But then when you're answering the question, look at the camera. It feels so weird, you guys. And I'll admit, even like I've been doing this for like a couple of years now, and it still feels weird looking at a piece of plastic when I want to look at a human being. But you got to like train your eye to do this because it's going to look so much better if you're doing these Zoom interviews. Second thing, Gary, do you mind if I pick on you for a second? You're fair game, right? Look at my face and look at Gary's face in terms of lighting. And look at David Ball. He's sitting next to me on screen too. Look at the lighting comparison and the lighting difference on here. It's much easier to see my face and David's face because we have light it's pushing out in front of us. So make sure that you have good, well lit areas if you're doing interviews on Zoom, because we want to make sure that people can see us. We don't want to look like we're hiding right on there. And Mindy's is a little dark when she sat back. When she sits closer, you can see her face gets a little bit lighter, right? As an example. So all of these things help create a quality experience for people that are interviewing you. So hopefully that helps everyone. And thank you, Gary, for letting us go on a little bit of a tangent on here. All right, we've got about 15 minutes left. I want to see if we have any success stories from the group, and we may have time for a few questions as well. So the way that this works is if you have a success story, I want you to go inside chat and just type in the word success, SUCCESS. Okay, just the word success, and I will call on you and I'll ask you to briefly tell us your success story. A success story might be I got a job. I'm off of the call. I'm never going to see you guys again, right? Hasta la vista. Or it could be I got an interview. It could be that you are getting your profile looked up, on LinkedIn more often. Whatever you deem to be a success on the path of finding a job, we want to hear about that. You may have a question for us today. And I do see there was one person I wanted to make sure I called on, Judy Taylor. I'm not sure if Judy's still on the call or not. I told Judy to come on the call and I would answer the question for her today. So if she's on, when we get to that, I'll call on Judy. But a question might be a question related to your job search, a question related to your resume, a question related to negotiating salary benefits. It might be a question related to something else, some other aspect of your job search. If you have a question, I want you to type in the word question in all caps, QUESTION. And then type in your full question. That way, if we can't get to your question, we can still have others in the chat that can respond to you. By the way, I'm just going to ask my intern Paige, please, when you put the links in for YouTube, could you put the HTTPS? Because I see the playlist is not clickable. Oh, you did. You corrected it. So we're good. All right. Awesome. Okay. So I see Brad has a success story. Lisa has a success story. If there are others, I'll find you in just a second in chat. But let's go Brad first. And then Lisa, you are on deck. So Brad, what is your success story for us, sir? I'm so excited to hear from you.
So my success story is on Wednesday, I got a verbal offer for a great role at CBS News Digital. And kind of a little background here, I saw a position listed on some site or other at CBS and reached out to a former colleague of mine who works there to try and get some information about that position. Turns out he responded back and said, I've got something I think you would find more interesting than that. And he had just recently gotten a promotion there and was expanding a team. And so he had been in charge of business operations for CBS Sports Digital and now became vice president of business operations for CBS News Digital and CBS Sports Digital, and has this new position to be a senior director of business operations for CBS News Digital, which is the role, in fact, I was given the offer for. I'm now in the process of going through the background checks before I get the written offer, but one of those things where it's a former colleague who was the hiring manager who gave me the job description before he even had the official go-ahead from the company to hire for the role. This all happened back in July initially. Shows you how long these things can take. It took until like mid-August for them to get the approval to fill the position. A week later, Paramount, the parent company, put a hiring freeze in effect. it took them about a week and a half to get this approved to be considered a critical role so that they could fill it. And then I had to interview with 4 other people before I could get the job. So long story, but that's where things are at. And
That's awesome. Congratulations, Brad. So
Thank
any
you.
advice for fellow job seekers on the call based on your path to finding this opportunity?
well, as always, keep networking, because that's the way 99% of us are going to find the job. You know, my background has been in the media space, and that's kind of where most of my focus has been. And it's a combination of things. It's where my industry knowledge is, but it's also where I've got a lot more connections in media because that's where I've worked. And so keeping that focus, I think, is incredibly important.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. So it's a verbal offer. So now are you
Right.
moving into negotiation possibly as your next step?
Yeah, it's more about them having to go through background checks and things like that.
Okay.
There really isn't a whole lot that I would want to negotiate because, you know, I kind of knew pretty much what the salary range was, and they came in a little higher than what I was.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, Brad, because I already heard some little opportunity, but I want to see if any of our all-stars want to offer any advice to Brad, because this is an emotional time. It's a good emotional time, but it's an emotional time when we get a job offer if we've been off for a while. I see Joey's hand has been raised. So Joey, I will call on you first, and then I'll see if any of the other all-stars would like to add anything. Go ahead, Joey.
Thanks, Brenda. Congratulations, Brad. If you could go back
Thank
in
you.
time to when you decided to reach out to this individual, what were you thinking right before you made that call or sent an email or a text? What was going on in your mind?
It was really more that I was thinking about him as being just somebody to have almost more of an informational conversation about working at CBS and anything he might know about this role, which I knew was in a completely different area.
Right.
It really was about that kind of thing, which I think is also really important, that you talk to people at companies where you're interested to find out about working at the company. And that was really what it was all about at that point. Little did I know that, you know, he would send this to me before we ever even connected. He sent me the job description.
All right. So it was a warm call. You weren't fearful. You weren't going to get rejected. Even if you weren't going to get rejected, this is somebody you knew. So you were
Right.
just happy to have a conversation. And who knew we'd be having this conversation today?
Exactly.
Congratulations.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Joey. I'm going to keep us moving along. I see Mindy has raised her hand next. Mindy, you got some advice for Brad?
I do. So Brad, congratulations. So much about your story rings true to me because so many people, through persistence and constant networking, which is what you are great at, are able to get their next opportunity. So kudos to you. And
Thank
yes,
you.
I have seen so many jobs taking so long to actually bear fruit. The one thing that I will mention to you is that people expect you to negotiate. Okay, so even if the salary is the perfect target salary for you, there may be other things that you might want to think about in terms of vacation, in terms of bonuses structure, in terms of health insurance. There may be so many other things that you can think about, that this is your opportunity, because once you're there, very hard to get raises, you know, above what you're negotiating for. So yes, it's probably the best opportunity and fantastic, but just be smart about this particular moment in time when you might have your best opportunity to negotiate something.
Benefits are really the one area that I will be looking at once I have them fully presented to me, because that's really, honestly, the benefits are the most important thing to me right now in my job search. It's more
Right.
than what the salary is. It's really the benefits.
Excellent. Good job.
Thank
All right,
you.
and related.
Congratulations again.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Mindy. And related to that too, Brad, keep in mind that sometimes it's there are things that are non-negotiable in terms of benefits, but there are items that are negotiable. And I'm just going to give you an example of, like, for me, when I got my last corporate job, they said, you're not getting benefit for 90 days, but I was taking a pay cut to take the job. And I said, I understand, that pay is not flexible, but I really need benefits for my family right away. And I can't afford to pay the $1,000 plus for Cobra. Can we start that right away? And they went back and they said, sure. And if I didn't, then I would have been out $3,000 more than from before. So always ask. All they can do is say no. And you could form it in the is it possible to look at X, Y, and Z? Could we start benefits right away? Is that possible? I'm not going to ask to negotiate salary, but would there be a chance that we could look at start date or adding in or, I see Jude has raised her hand.
Just want to mention in this instance, the benefits do start from day one. So
perfect. Great.
That's not an issue, but thanks for bringing that up.
Brad, I just want to share something about benefits. A friend of mine recently went through this. So she got a job with a company that had benefits, but they ended for anyone after a certain age. So she was only able to use those benefits for 9 months. So yeah, so make sure you read the fine print in the benefits, because some insurance companies will only insure an employee until a certain age and then no longer. Kudos to her. She got another job and she has benefits and doesn't have to worry about, getting those lost because of an age thing. So just keep that in mind.
Yes. In fact, I'm lucky enough to have a cousin who is a very experienced HR person who I run all these kinds of things by. Like when I had my severance package for my last job, she was the first person that I sent it off to look at. So yes, it's a time to read the fine print, unlike most of the time when we don't. But thanks for mentioning that.
All right. Well, Brad, we are so excited for you. Congratulations. It's so great to hear success stories. Part of the reason we do this is I want everyone to have hope, and I want us all to learn from. And that's part of the reason I want to just know the success story. I want to say, what advice can you share with us, Brad, for others on the call? So thank you so much for raising your hand, and best wishes. We're going to miss you, but I'm also kind of glad to see you go, right?
Yeah, I'll be here the next few weeks because the job is not going to be starting until like Halloween at the earliest. So no reason not to continue doing this. And that's another thing, just because you land a job doesn't mean you should stop networking.
Absolutely. Good advice. And you're welcome here, Brad, if you want to come any Friday. If you have a Friday off, you want to come on sometime, or if you want to listen to the background, you're always welcome. I'll never kick people out of the group. But the goal is to not see all of you on a Friday, not because I don't like you, but I always jokingly say, like, my goal is to get everyone back to work that wants to be back to work. So, so really delighted to hear success stories. All right. Lisa Vitale is up next. Oh, remember last week, Lisa shared a little success story. So Lisa, what's going on with you this week?
Hello, everybody. I got an offer.
Yay. So tell us about it.
But there's always a but. It's not a bad job. It's really what I was looking for. It was in the range that I was looking for, but unfortunately, they're offering me the low end of the range, and I can't take that position. So I did not take the position. And in the interview, the phone interview I had with another person regarding the same job, she indicated that I could be within in that same range. So I went to the next interview, and then by the time that I got the offer yesterday, by the time I got that offer, she said, "Oh, I see that you're asking for the higher end of the range. Well, I can only give you the low end." I'm like, I have a lot of.
I gotta just kind of ask the obvious question. Why is there a range?
There's a range. It's through it's through Michigan Works. So it's through with the school district. Basically, it's a government job.
Okay, so they're set based on criteria or number of years of experience or
something. I believe so. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Because look at me. I'm not 20 years old. I need more than $40,000 to live, which most people do. But that's what they're offering me, which is insane.
Wow.
So my question is, and I honestly, and they offered me that. She called me while I was in another interview. So I'm still interviewing. So I went to a different interview, which was very cool. So hopefully that will work out. We'll see what happens. I sent them a follow-up and all that other stuff. But my question is, when should I ask about the pay?
Okay, I'm gonna call in my all-stars and ask them for I'm assuming you're saying when in the interviewing process is it okay to ask about pay? Is your
Yes.
question. All right, Jude, Mindy, Gary, Bueller.
So Lisa, I have always heard the best practice, and this is what I recommend too, which is kind of nerve-wracking, but to wait until you have the job offer. So one of the things about networking, which can be really helpful, is to find out about wages, right, with companies that you might be working for. Also, Pay Scale, Glassdoor, Indeed, they all have pay ranges. So when I am coaching someone on negotiating, I always say, let them know that you've done your research, according to my research on Pay Scale, and let them know where you've looked for that range of a salary. I'd be happy to negotiate a wage between blah, 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 and blah, 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 right? Give yourself a range so that if they lowball you, you're still going to be at a good place. Okay.
Okay.
So unfortunately, yeah, that is where I'm going to say that you have to kind of wait. And
Okay.
I'm looking forward to hearing what everybody else has to say.
All right, Gary, I see your hand is raised, so I'm going to call on you next. Gary, what do you have to say?
It's a good analysis, Jude. I agree 100%. One thing, please, everybody who's looking for a job, do not forget that recruiters can be your good friends. And with recruiters, you can be as honest as you possibly want to be and say, I will not accept anything under 50,000 or 60,000. You can do that with a recruiter up front. If there's no way in the world that you're ever going to get it, they will not pass your name forward and you don't waste a lot of time. So it's very, very important. Now, most jobs today are negotiable.
Right.
So, and they state that right up front that it's negotiable. Now it's time to negotiate. Okay. And yes, everybody seems to be going to the high end because they're lowballing as many people as they possibly can. So, you start in the middle of the range and work your way up. Okay. But please do not forget about recruiters. When I was looking for a job, I hated the idea of a recruiter, but then I got into recruiting and it worked out real well. So thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Let's see. Mindy, you're up.
Yeah. So Lisa, it's such a difficult situation, right? The negotiations section, you have the right job and the range seems to be okay, but it just doesn't come through. So a couple of things I want to point out. Number one, I see a lot of things in the chat about what's coming up in the country, which is much more job pay transparency. It started in Colorado. New York is following close behind, and many other states are going to follow as well. I think we're going to see a lot more of you got to be posting the ranges. And that leads into what Gary was saying. Recruiters can be your best friend because they will tell you, yeah, they've posted, between 40 and 60, but I know for a fact they're not going above 45. So if this is not the right job for you, then let's move on and find somebody else, find something else. I am a very big advocate for using recruiters and really building strong relationships with a couple of trusted people that are in that field so they can really help you.
Okay.
so that you're not wasting a lot of time. And I understand, and all this is different because in municipalities, certainly in schools, they all have bands, right? And they can't go above the bands. You can't negotiate with a school, for example. If they're paying all their starting teachers at 32, you can't say, yeah, but I can't work for less than 60, because it won't matter. They can't do anything. But when we're not talking about government agencies, we're talking about, you know, other types of companies. But that would be my recommendation. You know, it's unfortunate that they're going to lowball you, but they do that a lot.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mindy. We are going to go a little bit after 11 today. So I just want to let everyone know, I know it's 11. I like to acknowledge the time. But I want to make sure we've got time to get through at least Jeffrey and Sonia. I had a couple more people on the deck here for their questions. Amy Kinney, I see that you've raised your hand. Amy, do you want to offer some advice, or do you have a question for Lisa?
Yeah, I was actually going to offer advice. I think especially with more salary transparency going on, that it's becoming much, much more common to have that salary discussion during the first phone call. I know that traditionally people say wait until you have an offer or until you get that to discuss it. But honestly, if you're going through multiple rounds of interviewing, nobody wants to waste all that time and effort and then to be in the position that you're in, Lisa, where you find out that the range and what they're offering isn't in line with your expectations. So especially since a lot of jobs are requiring you to put a salary range in. Obviously, do your research and know what you think you need and put a range that you'd be happy with. But then also, when you have that first conversation, 9 times out, almost all the time, the recruiter knows what the range is, and they also know how much wiggle room there is too. So it's totally acceptable to say, I want to make sure that we're on the same page about this when it comes to salary. Can you let me know what the range is for this position? And I've almost always had people tell me the range, because they'll ask you, sometimes they'll be like, so what are your salary expectations? And I said, well, I'd actually like to know what the salary range is for this position. And they'll almost always tell you. And then you can say, okay, that's in line with what I was looking at, or I'm actually looking at a higher range than that. Do you have any wiggle room in that? Because if they quote you a number that's 20% lower than what you're looking for, then there's no reason to continue on, right? But at least you know at that point. So I've seen a lot more of that people are just being a lot more open about that, and having that conversation up front provide, you know, it stops you from having to waste your time and their time, and understand, you know, what the expectations are from the get-go, so you don't get to that, hey, I have an offer, this is so cool. Oh, you're offering me the bottom end of the range or lower than what I was expecting. Not cool.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good, and good luck.
Oh,
and
thanks.
Amy, I just want to comment on your awesome sound quality. You sound like you're like a professional podcaster or something on there.
Oh gosh, no, it's just a Jabra headset, but I've been using it since, you know, the pandemic started, and it's just great for that. So
if you happen to have the link for that, could you drop it into chat? Because I'm sure I'm not the only person going, wow, that sounds amazing. And it's just like a quality thing. But
I will have to look it up, because my husband,
or
my
just
husband was in charge of
type
getting all
in
the
the
tech
name
for us,
if you
so.
could, like spell out Jabra for us and put it in the chat if you don't mind. And we can look it up on Amazon or wherever ourselves. But I'm like, I can't not address the quality elephant in the room, the sound thing of that. So, all right. I think I got through all the hands raised. Lisa, was that helpful for you?
Yes. Thank you very much.
I want to offer one last piece of advice related to another question that came in as this was going through, which was, you know, your initial question was, at what point do you ask about salary? If it were me, I'd do my own research. I'd go on like salary.com, payscale.com, and I don't know if Indeed has salaries. Maybe they do. I'm not sure. Glassdoor.com. And I would type in as much as I know about the company, their industry, and that job title, and come up with ranges. So I know going in what I think it should pay. It's kind of like, I like Starbucks coffee. I think you guys know this, right? I'll pay, you know, I mean, it's insane how much you pay for a cup of coffee from Starbucks when you can make it at home yourself. But if I could pay $1 for a Starbucks coffee, I would, but it doesn't mean I'm going to find any place in the world that's going to sell me a fancy latte for $1 at Starbucks. It's the same thing for job salary. I want to make 6 figures, but if there's no employer that's going to pay 6 figures, because that's not the market rate, that's what I'm getting to. What is the market rate? Do your research. You should know going in what they should be paying for the position. So there really shouldn't be, I mean, I know what you're saying, Lisa, if you're moving industries, you're like, don't know, but you can do, I mean, all these salary sites, you can plug in some numbers and you can come up with at least a ballpark. And I love, and I'm not sure who was it that said, ask the question, what is your range? They should be able to tell you if they say, we haven't figured it out yet, what are you looking for? Then you don't say, I want to pay $1 for a Starbucks macchiato, whatever those things are called. You would say, I've done some research and it looks like a position at this level within the industry, within Metro Detroit, should pay between X and Y. And I would think I'm more towards the Y end of the scale because of my level of experience. So you want to kind of go in with an informed, which that answers another, I think Janelle asked a question, what should you put in for requested salary? You don't put in what you want, you put in what you think the market rate is for the job and what you would be qualified for. Does that help you a little bit too, Lisa?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
All right,
Yes.
perfect. Becky has raised her hand, and then we're going to move on. Jeffrey, you're on deck, and Sonia will be after. Becky, go ahead.
Yeah, it's more of a question. I'm on the board of group here called Eagle Group of Minnesota Veterans, and we help people find jobs. We are looking for some things, and I'll put it in the LinkedIn group, but I wanted to do a heads up here. We need resume writer, and we need LinkedIn help. And I know that's you, Brenda, and other people. So I'm also going to check with one of my local people that's got a video series. So what I'd like to do is put that in the group, and anybody that wants to do it, help as a volunteer or for pay, because we have money, just let me know and I'll try to, put together some kind of menu thing or something. But it's resume writers and the LinkedIn help. We're doing headshots, but we got that taken care of locally. Obviously, it would be a little hard to do remote. So I just wanted to kind of give the heads up. So when I post in your group, that people are like, oh, yeah, I wanted to get back to her.
All right. Thank you, Becky.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. And by the way, for those that are not aware, we do have a private unlisted group on LinkedIn. I'm going to navigate to LinkedIn right now so I can grab that URL and drop it into chat. If you are not yet a part of that group, like stop what you're doing right now and join the group, because this is a way that you can share resources. If you have job postings that you come across and you want to put them in the group, if you have events that you come, like you guys can post anything. You don't need to check with me and say, is it okay if I share this resource or this event, or I found somebody who specializes in LinkedIn? Is it okay? Like, I'm not territorial. Like, this is a group that it's called VIP Job Seeker Resources. So use it as a resource. Go in here once a week and double check to see if there's any postings that could be helpful or relevant. Look at this. Jude Gall posted an after interview checklist. What a gold mine of information, right? So go through here and look and see information that's in here, and please feel free to share your links and your resources inside that group. All right, Jeffrey, we're going to go to you now, sir. Jeffrey, you have a question, I believe it was?
I do. So I know recruiter, I'm still looking for a role full-time. By the way, Brenda, again, thank you, and thank all the all-stars for this. Very helpful. I think we don't say thank you enough, so thank you. I am looking for a role full-time. I know recruiters are looking at my profile. I had read a while ago that the search order that LinkedIn Recruiter uses is the text in your headline is first, and then the text in your about is the second. I'm wondering, as far as you know, if that's still correct, that LinkedIn Recruiter uses that search order. Text in your headline first, and then text in your about. Do you happen to know, or any of your all-stars?
Okay, so I know the lane that I stay in, and I don't like to tell people answers to questions I do not have the direct answer to. So I'm wondering if there's anybody who has a recruiting background who has used LinkedIn Recruiter, which is a paid version of LinkedIn. If you're on the call, please raise your hand so I can call on you. Or if anyone who's on the call, Jude, Kenneth, Sue, did we lose Sue? I think Sue might have dropped off. If there's anyone else on the call who has knowledge of how people on LinkedIn are using the recruiter search for resumes on there. Right. I don't myself know that offhand. I can kind of guess, but I'm going to ask, I think Kenneth has raised his hand. So Kenneth, what do you know about that?
Jeffrey, do you know Ed Hahn?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Ed Hahn he actually has the recruiter package. He's out in northern New Jersey. He's very willing and able to share, because I've learned from him a lot of the stuff, because he actually has it. And again, I don't want to misrepresent what I think is there now, because it's always changing. But I would definitely reach out to him and just let him know that I asked, just name drop, Because he'll know the answer because he actually has it.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'll ask him and I'll be on next week and I'll have the answer. How's that?
Sure.
All right.
Thank
Jude,
you.
do you have anything to add to that? I see your hand is raised too.
Yeah, I do. Amy Miller is another recruiter. And when she talks about looking through an ATS system, which is different,
Right.
she will, type in keywords, right? That skills or tech stuff that is required for the job. So I would imagine that if she's doing that in an ATS system, she's probably doing the same thing if she's looking on LinkedIn for someone. It would make sense to me, but Amy Miller is another one that you could
Okay.
reach out to.
I'll connect and reach out to both of them. Thank you very much.
All right. And by the way, somebody published a list this past week of it was their own version of LinkedIn influencers. And Adam Karpiak was another recruiter who was on the list. And I think he was like the top 3 global. He's got like a huge number of followers. And if you follow him on LinkedIn, he's very professional. If you follow him on Twitter, he's hilarious. So if you need some comic relief, but that's just a third recruiter. And by the way, if you guys know of other recruiters we should follow on LinkedIn, feel free to drop them into chat or put them in the LinkedIn group, which is even better because then we can come back to that later. Jude, did you have something else or was your hand still raised from? Okay. I'm going to keep us moving here. Sonia, are you still on the call? Sonia, I have you up next. I'm not sure if it was a success story or a question.
I am here.
Good. So what's going on with you?
So it's a success story. If anybody remembers, I'm a digital literacy teacher. I teach adults remotely, primarily seniors, how to use their devices. And I've lost some of my income because a lot of the schools, 2 of the schools that I work for are returning to campus, and I prefer to work in my soft pants, so not going back to campus. So I started a side hustle. I got my New Jersey Notary Commission, and I'm trying to look at the camera. I got my New Jersey Notary Commission, and I'm going to be performing notarizations remotely. If it turns out to be something bigger than that, that's awesome. I can also do mobile notarizations, and there are a few more things I can do. I don't want to take up any more time, but I did want to mention that I'm doing this to supplement my income. I would rather spend my time building the collateral for a business, I've done this before, than applying for jobs where I fill out an application and then it goes into the black hole. So I'm working on it. I did update my
because you know what I'm looking for, right? Tell people what I'm looking for.
You're looking for my LinkedIn page, which I have created. I have grabbed all of my collateral for notary remotery, and but I'm building it. I'm almost finished designing my logo, and so I'm getting there. I've only just added this week because I have to take an oath of office in New Jersey, and they were able to administer that this week for me. So very excited. I can be out about it and now start adding the collateral. But no, I listen and I'm a learner, and all the advice I've gotten from you and your band of all-stars, I want you to copyright that.
We should get like leather jackets and stuff for the band, right?
It's priceless. It's just priceless.
So let me ask you a question, Sonia. Are you done looking for a job now? Like this is the path for you and you're going to build your own business, or are you still kind of open? Okay.
I can do both.
So the reason I ask is I created a group on LinkedIn. It's called Enthusiastically Unemployable.
I love that.
For anybody who's, and I was there with you too, Sonia. I mean, when you're in career transition, it's a really emotional time and you're on a roller coaster of things. And I was kind of like, I'm so sick of the job search. And I was getting interviews for a job. And I even remember at one point I had an interview. It was like a head of marketing for it was a manufacturing company, and it was like steel or something. I don't know, some kind of metal. And I remember I had interviewed with the HR person, interviewed with department manager, and then I interviewed with the president or CEO of the company. And I was in his office, and there's all these things about the company strategy on the wall. And it was very interesting. And then we went on a tour of the facility, and he walked me around. And there was this big picture of like rolls of steel on the wall. And he was like showing me this, and he was so passionate and so proud of his company and so proud of this photo. And I remember looking at it, not feeling any emotional connection whatsoever. And even though the job would have been great pay and great benefits, and it would have gotten me right back into the corporate path that I originally was planning on, I got home and I told my husband, I'm like, I can't take this job. I know they're going to make me an offer, but I got to pull myself out because I am not at all enthusiastic and I'm not going to be happy in this job. And then I started realizing all this side work that I was doing, was really ramping. I didn't know I was going to be self-employed. I had no plans. That was not a desire. That was not a path. But I was just like not finding something that I liked. And I started, Sonia, with what you're doing. I tasted a little bit of it. And I was like, I'm getting sick and frustrated of not getting jobs. And I started getting project work to cover my income. And then I started realizing if I pieced it together and if I put all of my eggs in the basket of Meller marketing, I could really make it take off. And then one day, lo and behold, I don't know what that day was, but one day I was enthusiastically unemployable. And it doesn't mean I can't find a job or that I couldn't find a job or that somebody wouldn't hire me or give me an interview. It was that I did not want it anymore. I was enthusiastically unemployable. Like I reached the threshold. And when you get that, it's like just being able to release it out to the universe. I'm letting go. I'm mourning my corporate former life, but I'm actually happy. I'm celebrating the new path that I never thought I could go on. So if you define yourself in that, or if this resonates with you, you're more than welcome to join the group. It's not super active. Every now and again, I'll post some little inspirational something like, give this post a like if you do not miss performance reviews. And it's funny. Camille just said, Brenda, you should do a class on transitioning to self-employment. I was at a conference this week and I wrote down an outline for a book called Enthusiastically Unemployable. I'm going to write a book about this. So I've just started the process now, but it's kind of like a how-to guide, giving yourself permission and celebrating self-employment after a corporate career ends is kind of the thought behind it. So stay tuned on that. But Sonia, I'm looking forward to seeing your company page when you're ready to launch it. If you need a little hand on getting it linked to your profile, do let us know. But keep the door open to the possibility that this could be a path for you. There's not just one path to success working for a company. There could be a whole other alternative path for you, Sonia, that allows you to stay in your, what did you call it? Comfy pants? What did you say?
Soft pants.
Soft pants. I love it. I want to be in soft pants 24/7. I love it. So congratulations on continuing down that path and sharing that with us. And Sonia will look for more updates for you in future calls.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Janelle had the question about requested salary, which I gave you some answers to that. All right, so I want to start to wrap us up at 11:19 today, but I don't feel like it was like, oh my gosh, that call went 20 minutes longer. I feel like there was so much good content. We started right off the bat today at 10 a.m. If you missed joining us right at 10 a.m., you missed out. I don't wait. We start at 10. If we say the call starts at 10, we start at 10. You can watch the YouTube playback. But what we did at the beginning of the call today is I asked for a volunteer for a profile review, and we went pretty deep on your profile this morning, David. We gave them a lot of great free advice and got a lot of the all-stars putting in that advice on there. So before we wrap up here today, couple things. First, I did post on LinkedIn just a little while ago, and I shared my Do This Now checklist. If you've been on the call for a few weeks, you know what I am referring to, but I'm going to pull it up on screen right now. And I posted on LinkedIn and I said, what if you had a checklist to work off of the day that you were let go, laid off, downsized, and it covered legal documents, things like separation agreements, if it talked about benefits, resources, job search, resume, networking, all that other stuff. What if you had that access to that? Would be pretty awesome to have, right? Because it's a very emotional time when you're in career transition. And I've with the help of this group and my all-stars, I put together a checklist. It's called the Do This Now checklist. And I said, because let's be honest, your employer isn't responsible for you after you've been let go. Sure, they want to treat you fairly on the way out the door so you don't cause a squawk, right? But after that, you're not their responsibility or asset, so to speak, anymore. They're looking out for the business. That's what they're doing. On your way out the door, they want to get you out for the lowest cost possible and keep the business running. That's all they care about. I'm sorry to be crude, but that's what it is, right? No one else is doing this. I don't see any other similar checklists out there. If there are, great, share them along. But I haven't seen anybody do something like this. And the people who've gone through this, we know the things that you're going to encounter. Things like signing off on a separation agreement before you've had a chance to have an attorney look through it, or asking your employer, can you buy your laptop at a discounted rate because you don't have one at home? Things that if you don't do these things now, there's a time frame and you're not going to be able to go back later. So there's a short time frame. And those of us who've gone before you want to help you. So we put together this list here. And, come end of the day, it's confusing. It's an emotional time. And especially if you've never had to look for a job, gosh, being out in the world again, where you have to use LinkedIn for a job search or put together a resume, you've never had to do that before. That's very confusing. So the checklist is designed to help you with, here's some different items. I've gotten some links and resources in there. And I want to thank Mindy, Christopher, Jude, Kenneth, Sue, Paige and Julia, my interns, helped me to put that together as well. So feel free to share this post along. You can just add a comment to the post if you want. Another thing you could do is you can bookmark this post. So in LinkedIn, you may not even know you can do this, but if you click on the 3 dots, there's a little button that says save, and you can save this post for later, because maybe you don't know someone today, but in a week, 2 weeks, 6 months from now, you're going to be like, where did I find that checklist? Meller Marketing / do this now. So if you remember that, it's a way of remembering it. But if you save this post, then you can find it in your saved items later. And the way that you do that is after you save it, you go back to the home page, click on the LinkedIn logo or the home logo. And in the left navigation, it's a little bit confusing because it says My Items. Remember I said this earlier, this is why Kenneth and I have a job, because it's not intuitive. You wouldn't think this is saved items, but now that I've told you, you know it is. So I click on My Items, and then there's going to be a couple things that come up in here. I'm going to click on Saved Posts. Okay. And then I can see that post right here. You could also bookmark it in your browser thingy, Majaba or whatever, but that's how you get to it. So my ask for all of you is, could you please go on that post today and add a comment or give it a like or a reaction or share it with somebody in your network? I'm going to drop that link into chat one more time. If you could please do that before you leave here. All right. And related to chat, reminder that you can download the chat before you leave here today, where it says to everyone in the bottom of the chat, there's 3 little dots off to the right-hand side. Click on those 3 little dots, and then there's an option to save chat, and you can download it, put it in your saved or your downloads folder, I guess it is. Somebody last week put it on the LinkedIn group, totally fine. I just don't do this for you. So if you want to save it or share it with other people, feel free. It's just not a service I provide. So feel free if you want to share it amongst yourself. All right. With that said, I want to thank Jude, I think, is the only all-star remaining. I know we've been a little bit longer, but thank you, Jude, so much for your help today. And thank you to all of you for attending. I know that you were here today. You are important. You will always be a member of our team every Friday. You can come here and you can spread the word to others to join us as well. So I want you to remember that. I hope you have a great weekend. And I want to thank you for attending. Thank you to Jeffrey, Angie, Becky, Camille, Christina, Cindy, David, Esmeralda, Janelle, Jeff, Jillian, Joey, Laura, Lisa, Michelle, Nancy S, Nancy A, Paige, Patty, number 1, and then Patty B, Scott, Simone, Sonia, Vic, and Wendy. Thank you so much for attending. I'm going to end the live broadcast on YouTube right now, and I will keep this open until about 11:40. So for about 15 more minutes, if you would like to stay on and to continue to network with each other. And with that said, I will see all of you guys next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks again.